qui vle lutter avec toute lucidité. Mauvais drap blanc pour ça que l'honnêteté.
That's Haiti's beloved folk singer and troubadour Emmanuel Mano Charlemagne, who died on Sunday in a Miami Beach hospital at the age of 69. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org. I'm Amy Goodman with Nermeen Sheikh.
We turn now to mounting calls for President Trump to resign and the escalating war of words between Trump and his accusers over multiple claims of sexual harassment and assault. This week, New York Senator Kirsten Gillibrand became the 5th senator to call for Trump to step down. In response, Trump attacked Gillibrand, tweeting, quote, "Lightweight Senator Kirsten Gillibrand, a total flunky for Chuck Schumer, and someone who would come to my office begging for campaign contributions not so long ago and would do anything for them, is now in the ring fighting against Trump," end quote. On Tuesday, Gillibrand fired back, saying Trump's attack was sexist.
It was a sexist smear attempting to silence my voice. And I will not be silenced on this issue. Neither will the women who stood up to the president yesterday, and neither will the millions of women who have been marching since the Women's March to stand up against policies they do not agree with.
The USA Today editorial board jumped in with an unusually forceful editorial titled, "Will Trump's Lows Ever Hit Rock Bottom?" Writing, quote, "A president who would all but call Senator Kirsten Gillibrand a whore is not fit to clean the toilets in the Barack Obama Presidential Library or to shine the shoes of George W. Bush."
That, again, a USA Today editorial. Meanwhile, 3 of the 16 women who've publicly accused Trump of sexual harassment held a news conference on Monday here in New York, demanding Congress take action. The women shared accounts in which they said Trump groped, fondled, and forcibly kissed them. Monday's press conference was held by Brave New Films, which released the documentary 16 Women and Donald Trump in November. This is an excerpt.
He groped me. He absolutely groped me. And he just slipped his hand there, touching my private parts.
He turned to me and embraced me and gave me a kiss on the lips. And I remember being shocked, and because I would have just thought to shake somebody's hand, but that was his first response.
It was a real shock when all of a sudden his hands were all over me. But it's when he started putting his hand up my skirt. And that was it. That was it.
The person on my right, who, unbeknownst to me at that time, was Donald Trump, put their hand up my skirt. He did touch my vagina through my underwear.
As the women walked across the table, Donald Trump would look up under their skirt and, comment on whether they had underwear or didn't have underwear. I didn't want to have to walk across the table. I wanted to get out of there.
Then his hand touched the right inside of my breast. I felt intimidated and I felt powerless.
Lana was standing right next to him when he touched my butt.
When we entered the room, he grabbed each of us tightly in a hug and kissed each one of us without asking permission. After that, I received another call from either Donald or a male calling on his behalf, offering me $10,000. His actions are a huge testament to his character, that of uncontrollable misogyny, entitlement, and being a sexual assault apologist.
I'm, sitting there in my robe and having, my makeup and hair done and everything, and he comes walking in, and I was just like, oh my goodness, what is he doing back here? I saw him walk into the dressing room.
He just came strolling right in. There was no second to put a robe on or any sort of clothing or anything. Some girls were topless, other girls were naked, waltzing in. When we're naked or half naked in a very physically vulnerable position.
And he came to me and started kissing me open-mouthed as he was pulling me towards him. He then grabbed my shoulder and began kissing me again very aggressively and placed his hand on my breast. And I said, "Come on, man, get real." He repeated my words back to me, "Get real," as he began thrusting his genitals.
That's an excerpt from 16 Women and Donald Trump, released by Brave New Films. Well, in response to these accusations from now 16 women, President Trump tweeted Tuesday, quote, "Despite thousands of hours wasted and many millions of dollars spent, the Democrats have been unable to show any collusion with Russia, so now they're moving on to the false accusations and fabricated stories of women who I don't know and or have never met. Fake news," he tweeted. Well, for more, we're joined by one of Trump's accusers, one of the women who have decided to speak out. We're joined by Jessica Leeds, who says Donald Trump groped her in the first-class cabin of a commercial flight. Jessica Leeds has recently retired after working 30 years as a stockbroker. She's the mother of 2, grandmother of 8, and she joins us now in our New York studio. Jessica Leeds, welcome to Democracy Now! And thank you for bravely taking this time to tell your story. So take us back to that day in 1979.
Well, I was traveling for a paper company as a sales rep. There were very few women at that time working on the road. So it was not unusual for the stewardess to come back and ask me if I wanted to come up to first class. And I was delighted because the food was better, the seats were more comfortable. So I came up, and the gentleman sitting on the window side and right at the bulkhead, I sat down and he introduced himself as Donald Trump. At that time, I knew nothing about the Trump Organization, Donald Trump, or anything, because I did not work out of New York City. I was based in Connecticut, but I flew in and out of New York. Well, they served the meal, and after it was cleared, he jumped all over me and started groping me and kissing me and this. And at the time, I remember thinking, why doesn't the guy across the aisle come to my aid? Why doesn't the stewardess come back? You know, but nothing was said. I didn't say anything. I don't remember him saying anything.
How did he first? You had been talking at lunch while you were eating?
A little bit. Not a lot. Not a lot.
And he just turned to you?
Yeah. Yeah.
And did what?
And started grasping me and pulling me and groping my breasts and trying to kiss me. But it's when he started to put his hand up my skirt that I managed to wiggle out, because I'm not a small person. And I also managed to remember my purse and went to the back of the airplane, and that was the rest of the flight.
To where the flight attendants are? You just went back to the very back?
Right. And when the plane landed, I made sure that everybody was off the plane before I did, because I didn't want to run into him again. I did not complain to the airlines. I did not complain to my boss. That was not done. There were all sorts of silly things that would happen on airplanes, like, guys, you want to join the Mile High Club? I mean, these were things that, at that time, we tolerated. So fast forward, I left and came to New York City. This was in 81, 82. I got a job with the Humane Society of New York. And they were having this fundraising gala at Saks Fifth Avenue. And I'm the new kid on the block, so I'm really, really thrilled to be involved with this. And it was a wonderful New York sparkly night, and I got to meet all these designers who are now since gone. But Oscar de la Renta and Bill Blass and Jeffrey Beam and Mary McFadden and all of them. And up comes, I'm at the table that gave out the table assignments. Up comes Trump with his wife, Ivana, who's very pregnant. And I look at him, and by this time, having worked for the Humane Society, I was aware of who this guy was. The Trump family and everybody on the society scene was very important to the Humane Society to bring him in. So I'm remembering him. But I hand him this chit, and he looks at me, and he says, I remember you. You're that, and he used the C word from the airplane.
The C word used to refer to a woman.
Yes, yes. And it was like, it had been a crowded scene around the table, but it was like all of a sudden everybody